Good evening, AGCS.
That's right. Good evening and welcome back to another Sunday evening book club. Whose room are we in?
Mason.
That's right. We're in Mason's room. I'm Mrs. Hendrickson. Who are you?
Mason the star.
Are you the star of the show? Okay.
Yay. I'm still call myself different, may I?
Who are you?
Can I call myself a different name?
No. What's your name?
Eric!
I love it. Nice.
Eric!
All right. Are you guys ready to hear the end of the Junie B. Jones, Boss of Lunch Lady?
Yes.
See how it turns out for Junie B?
I'll say I.
Are you going to read all the I's? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to finish reading Junie B. Jones, Boss of Lunch.
And Boss a Big Spoon.
Is she the boss of the big spoon? All right. Sit down here. Okay.
She's the boss of the kitchen.
Okay. That's right. Here we go. Chapter 8, Lunchtime. Being a helper is not a breeze. After the lunch bell rang, big kids started coming into the kitchen. 2 of them pointed at my hairnet. They called me a name, a freakazoid. I felt like crumbling inside.
Yes!
Now I'm not even going to greet you, I said real quiet. After that, I tattled to Mrs. Goodsman, and she grouched at those boys. Plus, she also said I didn't have to greet people. Instead, she said I could sponge the counter. I hurried over there my fastest. Then I sponged and sponged until the big kids were gone. Pretty soon, I looked at the door again, and guess what? My friends from room 1. I saw Herb and Lenny, Jose, Shirley, and Roger. They were all at the counter with their trays. I ran over to them quickly. After everyone got there, I said, hello, 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 look at me. See me working here? See me being a helper? See? I said. All of them smiled and waved. Hi, Junie B. Hi, they said. Shh, you need to stop talking, please. I skipped around in a circle. See my outfit? I am a professional lunch maker. See? I look just like Mrs. Goodsman. I showed them my sponge. And look at this. I even have equipment. And after that, I ran back to the sinks. And I showed them how I wiped the counter. Can everyone see me over here? I asked. I am the boss of this entire sponge area. You have to wait. After that, I zoomed to the napkins. Plus, also, I am the boss of the napkins, I said. See how I stacked them? If I keep up the good work, someday I'll be the boss of this whole operation.
She's so happy.
Probably. She is really happy.
She's like She's like Mrs. Goodsman.
Right. Just then, May came in the door. She did a mean laugh. You're not a real lunch maker, Junie B. Jones, she said.
She is.
They just letting you pretend. Don't you know that? All of a sudden, I felt steamy mad inside. 'Cause I am sick and tired of that girl. I stamped my foot real hard. Yes, I am too a real lunch maker, I said. Can't you see my outfit, May? If I'm not a real lunch maker, then how come I'm wearing mitts and a hairnet? Huh? May didn't answer. I'll tell you why, sister, I said, 'cause I'm keeping my hair and germs out of the tuna noodle stinkle. That's why. Oops. Besides me, I heard Mrs. Goodsman groan. I turned around to see her. Her face looked very sickish. I turned back to room 1. Their faces looked sickish too. One by one, they all put their lunch trays back. I don't really feel that hungry anymore, said Herb. Me neither, said Jose. I had a really big breakfast. Then very slowly, all of the children started backing out of the kitchen.
Why is he holding his nose?
Well, do you want to eat something that's called stinkle?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, you tell me when it's over. I watched them from the door. They backed all the way out of the kitchen to the lunch table. Mr. Scary was waiting there for them. He talked to them for a minute. Then he came back into the kitchen and talked to Mrs. Goodsman. They whispered to each other for a real long time. Also, they kept looking at me, and they wouldn't even stop. My head got drops of sweat on it. I wiped it off with my sponge. After that, Mrs. Goodsman closed her eyes again. Then she walked to me very nicely, and she took away my sponge, and she said my job was done. Oh, she probably shouldn't have called the tuna noodle stinkle.
Mommy.
Hold on, Eric. Chapter 9, Bologna, Monday. Dear First Grade Journal, Room 1 is still mad at me about Friday. After we went back to the room, Mrs. Goodsman brought bologna sandwiches for the children who didn't eat. They were not a hit. I sat at my desk and I ate out of my new lunchbox. I had a tasty peanut butter and jelly sandwich, 'cause brought lunch is way better than bought lunch. And that's not even my fault. Some of the children watched me eat. They made growly faces at me. Today, Herbert is my only friend, and Lenny and Jose are being reasonable. I wish Friday never happened. From Junie B. Jones, first grader. I peeked my eyes at the clock. It was almost 2:15. Just one more hour before I could go home. I tried to make the clock go faster with my eyes, but it didn't actually work. Just then, there was a knock on our door. Mr. Scary answered it. "Why, hello," he said. "Why, hello yourself," said a friendly voice. And guess what? Who was it?
Mrs. Goodsman.
It was Mrs. Goodsman. She walked in the room with 2 boxes in her arms. My heart pounded and pounded to see that woman. What if she came to scold me?
Let's scold me.
Like yell at her. I slumped way down in my seat so she couldn't see me. Mrs. Goodsman set the boxes on Mr. Scary's desk. Then she looked all around the room. I slumped in my seat even further. But only too bad for me, because Blabbermouth May pointed at me. "Mrs. Goodsman, Mrs. Goodsman," she hollered. "Junie B is trying to hide from you. She's sliding down in her chair so you can't see her. But I'm keeping track of her movements." After that, I slid all the way to the floor under my desk. I curled into a ball and hid my head. Pretty soon, I heard feet walking to my desk. I was getting used to that. The feet stopped next to my chair. I opened one eye and peeked out. I saw who it was. The bottom of Mrs. Goodsman's white apron. "Junie B," said her voice. "Why are you sitting on the floor?" I didn't move a muscle. 'Cause maybe she would still go away. "Junie B," said Mrs. Goodsman, "I brought something for your class. Don't you want to see what it is?" I shook my head real fast. "No, thank you. I don't want to see it is. So now you can be on your way." I opened my eyes and looked at her feet. They kept on standing there. Then, all of a sudden, I heard a loud groan. And what do you know? That woman squatted down right next to me. I was shocked to see her. "Mrs. Goodsman," I said, "what are you doing down here?" Mrs. Goodsman did not look comfortable. "Please, Junie B, I need your help," she said. "I brought cookies for your class today, but there's no one up there to help me pass them out." I rolled my eyes way back in my head, 'cause that's not even the truth of that, of course. "There is, Mrs. Goodsman. There's lots of people up there to help you." That's Mrs. Goodsman. Mrs. Goodsman shook her head. No, you don't understand," she said. After that, she reached into her pocket, and she pulled out a pair of plastic mitts. "I need a real helper, Junie B," she said. "I need someone with experience." Mrs. Goodsman smiled, kind of painful. "Please," she said, "if we don't stand soon, I'm going to fall right over here on my keister, and you'll never get me up." I did a teensy smile, because that was a little joke, I believe. Finally, I crawled out from under my desk, and I helped Mrs. Goodsman stand up. "I guess I can help you pass out some cookies," I said, kind of quiet. "But some of these children are still very mad at me, you know." Mrs. Goodsman held out my hand. "Yes, well, I think maybe I can fix that," she said. After that, me and her walked to the front of the room together. Mrs. Goodsman showed everyone the cookies. "Sugar cookies," shouted the children. "Thank you, Mrs. Goodsman, thank you." Mrs. Goodsman put her hand on my shoulder. "Don't thank me, class," she said. "Junie B is the one who reminded me to pay you a visit, like I did last year. She's the one you need to thank." For a second, no one said anything. Then all of a sudden, Herb hollered out, "Thank you, Junie B. Jones." And then all of the other children hollered out, "Thank you, too." I grinned real big, 'cause those words made me feel happy. After that, I hurried back to the sink and washed my hands. Then I quick put on my mitts and ran back. Mrs. Goodsman gave me a thumbs up. "Ready to go, helper?" she said. "Ready," I hollered back. And so then both of us passed out the cookies together. I did a perfect job. And so here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that maybe someday I won't be the boss of lunch after all. Maybe someday I will just be the boss of cookies instead. Because boss of cookies is the most delicious job I ever heard of. Plus also, I would get to make all of the cookie rules. And I already have thought of rule number 1. I wrote it in my journal so I wouldn't forget. Rule number 1. The boss of cookies gets to have 4 sugar cookies all to herself. P.S. Only never eat them in front of the children, because that would be rude probably. P.S. again. Plus sometimes she can even have 6. Ha! The end.
That is not fair.
Why is that not fair? You want to be the boss of the cookies?
On this one.
Come back. Come back. We're not done yet. Almost. Thanks, sir. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed Junie B. Jones and her adventures in the cafeteria. That was so much fun. I loved it. We hope you had a great weekend and are ready for another week of our continuous learning. We just want you to know that whatever you're doing at home is more than enough. As you can see, I got my hands full, and I know all of you do too. So you just keep doing your very best, logging on to see your teachers and doing whatever you can. And from us here, we're saying that is more than enough. We hope everybody has a great, great Sunday evening and a great start to the week. Bye!
Bye.